In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light.
The first time I saw sonoluminescence was in a darkened room. I was transfixed to look at this spherical flask of fluid.
And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters.
A tiny spot of bright light contained in a flask of liquid.
And you look into the center, and in the center see a glowing blue-purple light, which could be seen with the unaided eye.
This star in a jar is made when a sound wave is passed through a small bubble inside a flask of liquid. And this sound wave, and this sound wave.
And God said,
And this collapse happens so violently that vapor molecules trapped inside the bubble slam together and heat up so much that the bubble gives off an incredible burst of heat and light, several thousand times a second, giving the appearance of a star.
Try these on. Look, you crazy mother. Put these on. Hey! Stay away from me! I'm telling you, you dumb son of a...
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy. But when you're inside, you look around, what do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters. The very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
Locked!
And what you're seeing here is a mirage. We typically would not be able to see this from the Lake Michigan shore. We talked about this last night. Conditions are right on the lake, but we're actually seeing a mirage of the Chicago skyline.
But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
places on the ocean's floor was only just discovered in the 1990s. I might agree as one of a handful of people to ever see it in person.
Without a doubt, one of the most amazing things that I had ever seen in the bottom of the ocean, and it was while filming for Blue Planet, was in the Gulf of Mexico. I noticed there's something out in the distance, couldn't tell exactly what, but it looked like a dark band. And as we approached it, the dark band became a donut. I saw this donut that was black in the center. What the heck is that? And so as we get closer and closer to it, I noticed that the black band had what appeared to be kind of steam over it. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater. We went out over the water in this lake and tried to descend it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down it. We literally bounced off.
Fly those?
Absolutely. Do you get to fly to the edge? Oh, yeah.
What's past there?
Don't know. We're not allowed to fly past that.
Let's go.
It's against the rules, Jonas.
Who are you?
The giver. When the elders need guidance, I provide wisdom using memories of the past. Our world was different. There was more.
More?
Much more. There is no way for me to prepare you for the truth.
Germans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet.
Imagine what you know tomorrow.
We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
A group of social criminals, these people in the space program. Nassholes, I'd call them.
And some of those people actually still believe the Earth is flat. So if a few of them want to believe that we didn't go to the moon, let them. It's not an issue that comes up in my presentation.
I mean, the Earth being flat, that's clearly ridiculous. Though I've actually been contacted by some flat earthers saying I'm covering up the fact that it's some Atlantean conspiracy.
NASA. As you can see, we got a nice red serpent tongue coming through there. NASA. And there's the UN flag. Also the symbol of the flat Earth. Oh, of course, if I say flat Earth, then I gotta be an idiot. Right? That's what they told you, right? It's a ball. There's no Antarctica in this.
It's cold out here.
Yeah, it is. It's like the South Pole.
It's like the deep South Pole, if there was one. There isn't, though.
Peters projection.
It has fidelity of axis.
Fidelity of position.
East-west lines are parallel and intersect north-south axes at right angles. What the hell is that?
It's where you've been living this whole time.
The legislature recognized that there is a debate about whether the Earth is round or flat.
No.
And let's encourage critical thinking by saying there should be a legitimate debate between whether the Earth is round or flat. Because after all, any idiot can walk outside and look and see that it's flat.
This is very important, what we're fighting for. Because I'm tired, really tired of the manipulation. They do not tell the truth, they lie. Particularly our history books. The history books are not true, it's a lie.
That's right, my fault.
The history books are lying. You need to know that. You must know that.
Asteroid Santa Claus kicks and deals. It's a lawn fly ball going back. And the ball shatters the sky, bringing the ocean itself down into the stadium. Oh, Simpson just broke this dream's reality wide open.
Now there's be some comedians making jokes tonight, but I want to talk about the joke that's on you.
The German cartographer, Mercator, originally designed this map in 1569 as a navigational tool for European sailors.
The map enlarges areas at the poles to create straight lines of constant bearing or geographic direction.
So it makes it easier to cross an ocean.
But
Yes.
it distorts the relative size of nations and continents.
Are you saying the map is wrong?
Oh dear, yes. Look at Greenland.
Okay.
Now look at Africa.
Okay.
The two land masses appear to be roughly the same size.
Yes.
Would it blow your mind if I told you that Africa is in reality 14 times larger?
Yes.
Here we have Europe, drawn considerably larger than South America. When it's 6.9 million square miles, South America is almost double the size of Europe's 3.8 million.
Alaska appears 3 times as large as Mexico, when Mexico is larger by 0.1 million square miles.
Germany appears in the middle of the map when it's in the northernmost quarter of the Earth.
Wait. Relative size is one thing, but you're telling me that Germany isn't where we think it is?
Nothing's where you think it is.
Where is it?
I'm glad you asked.
Okay, so here's the picture of the Earth from space. There it is. Since you were a kid, you've seen this image. But you've never seen it from that point of view. You know what? We adopted this whole model like 400 or 500 years before the airplane. 400 years before the airplane, pretty much. It was like, beginning of the 1900s. They went to the North Pole in the 1900s. This is 1482. Nobody went to the top of the globe, to the bottom, or flew up, or built a skyscraper until... It's funny, back in the 60s when they went to the moon, this is the first time we actually had like an instrument of flight to actually go high enough to actually fucking check out if what we agreed to 500 years ago was real. So if they were wrong after 500 years, the question is, what'd they tell you?
1969. First lunar mission to the moon. You know, the first lunar mission to the moon wasn't so much about going to the moon. It was about having an event so you can go high enough to take a picture after 500 years to prove it was a ball.
And they had as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, but in Greek he has the name Apollyon.
Mr. Armstrong, Bart Sibrel, ABC Digital. Wanted to give you the opportunity to swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon.
The two most watched televised events in history: the moon landing and the towers falling.
You have $5,000 cash. You can give it to charity if you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon. I have a tape.
That'd be fine.
Why don't you swear to... Why not? Why won't you do it?
And it's funny, when you click on Google Images, photo of the Earth, you'll see 40 pages on Google. But it's always the same fucking thing.
For those that believe in the Bible does mention the edges of the earth, the four corners of the earth, and how Satan brought Jesus Christ to the top of the mountain and showed him all kingdoms of the world. How can Satan show Jesus all kingdoms of the world if the world is round? How can there be edges of the world if the world's a sphere? The Bible also mentions how the earth is immovable and is set on pillars. So for the believers that still believe in the ball earth, the round earth, got to reconsider. According to science and the satanic system, the earth is supposedly tilted at a 23.4 degree angle off vertical, and that leaves you at 66.6 degrees off horizontal. Now what are the chances of that?
Most people saw the lunar landing and they're swearing on it because they heard it on the radio. CBS put up screens all over in Central Park, along with NBC, you know, so they could work with groupthink dynamics. Reality is reinforced by group dynamics. What do you see in that?
The zero-G illusion, also, that you see astronauts, they look like they're floating or flying in space. It's achieved through three different ways. One way is through zero-G planes. They're just Boeing 737s specially outfitted to do these parabolic maneuvers, where they do a parabolic, and then you have a zero-G like free fall state where it seems like you're floating for about a minute at a time. You can keep this going. The second way, when they're like at the fake International Space Station fixing things outside of it, this is done in a pool, in a dark pool. They're actually underwater, and you can see bubbles rising out of the pool, proving that they're in a pool in many of their spacewalks. So the outside space shots are done in the pool. The inside, most of the inside shots are done in zero-G planes, and then some of the longer inside shots are done with a green screen and harnesses, so they just kind of float on a harness in front of a green screen. And with these three methods, they're able to produce the zero-G effect that everybody thinks is them floating around in space. But in reality, anything that goes up comes right back down. There is no point where you can just go up, 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 and then, oh, I'm floating now, and I get to float through infinite space now forever. That's the illusion. That doesn't happen. You will always come back to the Earth. You'll always fall right back down.
No matter how high you go up?
As high as any non-NASA source has gone.
Jesus, you think he knows? I mean, it's proof right there. This is an official NASA photo of the first Apollo 11 lunar module landing on the moon. I mean, it's right there. This is proof, man. It's the picture's right there. It's landing on the moon. But the only problem I have with this picture is that it's taken from the moon. I don't know what the big deal was with being the first guy on the moon. It seems the camera crew was already there.
Hey. All right, do you see Photoshop?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and if those of you think this technical difficulty was planned and think I'm scamming you, go do it for yourself. I'm going to zoom in on the Earth in Photoshop. So you see the Earth?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to go to Image, Adjust, Levels, and I'm going to bring the levels over here. And I'm going to bring the levels up. Uh-oh. What is that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow. Why is there a square box around the Earth allegedly taken from the scientists on the moon in Apollo 17? Then you got other pictures like this, the blue marble, right, that come out. Okay, well, there's a big problem with the blue marble, and I'm going to zoom in here and show you what the problem is. These are all composite images where they are really not very good at Photoshop because they're using the Photoshop clone tool to replicate clouds.
That's an official photo from NASA. But plus, how many people think that's a photo? But plus, how many people think this is bullshit?
Now, a lot of people's first question is going to be, well, where's the edge? And I was surprised to see how easy that is to rectify, but I'm sure you get that a lot. How do you tell people when they come at you with, well, where's the edge? Why aren't people sailing off the edge or whatever?
So, in the flat Earth model, the North Pole is in the middle, and the Earth is a disk shape, and the Antarctica is all the way around, holding the oceans in. And so it's a fact, if you're at the North Pole and you go south, no matter which, actually it doesn't matter where you are, if you go south eventually, you're going to end up in Antarctica. But on the ball model, it's just a little ice continent underneath the ball. Yet in this model, it's all the way around you, holding the oceans in. As for whether there's an edge beyond the Antarctic ice plateau, this wall that holds everything in is about 100 to 200 feet tall, and once you climb up on the ice wall, it's a plateau of snow that just goes on and on and on. And the public and myself are ignorant at the moment as to whether there is an edge at some point, whether there'd be a barrier, a dome, as many ancient cultures have said there is, or whether it's an infinite flat plane and it's just snow, ice, wind, and darkness forever.
Stop what you're doing and listen. This is not a drill.
Oh God! Help! Help!
I can't tell you if what happened is an act of terror or an act of God.
Where the hell did it come from?
No idea.
You have people trapped in here!
What are you telling us? We're trapped like rats?
To prevent your poisons from spreading, your government has sealed you all within this dome.
Our best guess puts the dome at 20,000 feet, sir.
Did he just call it a dome?
You think we might be stuck in here a while?
I think that even if what's wrong suddenly becomes right, the Army's just gonna quarantine this place.
I want roving death squads around the perimeter 24/7. I want 10,000 tough guys.
Let me out! Let me out!
What's the most resilient parasite? An idea. A single idea from the human mind can build cities. An idea can transform the world and rewrite all the rules. Which is why I have to steal it.
Never recreate from your memory. Always imagine new places.
He's hiding something, and we need to find out what that is.
We gotta break out of here. Give him the kick! This was not a part of the plan!
Wake me up! Wake me up!
Is the whole flat Earth idea, is that a new idea? How long has this been around?
No, the flat Earth was worldwide for thousands of years before this spinning ball Earth came around. The first person to think of the spinning ball Earth was also the first Freemason, Pythagoras of Samos. Most Freemasons trace their ancestry, if you will, back to Pythagoras as being the first Freemason. And that was 2,500 years ago. But his idea didn't catch on at all until about 500 years ago, when Copernicus, another Freemason and Jesuit, wrote his book promoting this spinning ball Earth and concept. And then Kepler and Newton and Galileo, they took it from there, and now NASA and RASA and all the other space agencies, they're experts like Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson. They're continuing this heliocentric spinning ball Earth gravity myth that's been going on for 500 years, and they keep adding on to it now. Now you've got a Big Bang and evolution and aliens, and come out and say they've found life on other planets soon. They've already given us fake pictures from Mars claiming that there's a pyramid and Sphinx on Mars, trying to cement this alien progenitor propaganda into us.
So are you saying there are no aliens?
Not in the sense of extraterrestrials, since there are no extraterrestrial places. Earth is the only material plane. It's a plane, not a planet. And the planets are just stars. That what we call planets today were known for thousands of years as the wandering stars. They differ from the fixed stars in their relative motions only. All the fixed stars in the constellations, they're fixed together in their patterns as they revolve around the heavens. But the planets, as they're called now, used to be known as wandering stars because they seem to wander their own unique paths. They just spiral around the sun, and they have kind of a spirograph orbit. You can see in one of my videos called the Ancient Flat Earth Beliefs, a model of it to give you an idea. But with the naked eye or with a telescope, you can see for yourself that these so-called planets are just stars. they're just lights in the night sky. They claim that the planets are physical terra firma that you can land on and potentially live on. And they also claim that the stars are distant suns in galaxies trillions of light years away. Now, these light years are things that they've come up with to try and convince you that those lights in the sky aren't as close as they actually are. They want you to think that the nearest star is actually 25 trillion miles away, and the reason they have to say this is because you can prove for yourself in your backyard with a telescope that the Earth is motionless. If we're really spinning around the sun 200 million miles every 6 months, we would be on the other side of the sun, right? So you can, by looking at the parallax change in the stars, see whether that's true. And there's not an inch in parallax change in any of the stars after 6 months of supposed orbital motion around the sun. So if that's the case, it's proof that we haven't moved.
See how the moon travels at the same speed and direction as the stars? They all move together as one, and that's not possible if you believe the official narrative that the moon is a lot closer to the Earth than the stars. They'd all be moving at different speeds. This is the camera, is the Earth, and there's no way that those stars would move at the same speed and trajectory as the moon.
Why all this deception?
So what we've got now is a godless Big Bang, a nothing for no reason in no time exploded and created everything. And then a bit of the everything turned into self-replicating bits, and life spontaneously created, and order and intelligence and consciousness all came into existence. So we've got this cosmology that comes from nothing. It's atheistic, it's nihilistic. It makes it as though humanity and Earth and everything here is just a cosmic accident. It's purposeless, it's meaningless. That's why this kind of atheistic materialism is rampant nowadays, because this kind of metaphysics is what we're being taught. So if we're just in the corner of some galaxy and the fingertip under the dust of the fingertip of the universe, then we don't mean anything. So what it does is it spiritually crushes humanity, so that we just think that me is all that's important, because this life is meaningless, God doesn't exist, we're just a bunch of primordial soup that turned into monkeys, and then monkeys turned into humans. They got us believing just a bunch of nonsense. The overall reason, if you're a psychopath like the people who do control this world all are, then what you want, your ultimate goal is world domination. The best way to achieve world domination is through propaganda and mind control. So the way to mind control someone, if you've got them in a cage since birth, you tell them that the cage is the only thing there is, and everywhere else you can't go. You can't go to the North Pole, and you can't go to the Antarctic without government approval and licensing. They have little tours where you can go and take little photo ops, but you can't go yourself and explore what's actually at the North Pole.
Maybe I'm being set up for something. Christoph, why do you think that Truman has never come close to discovering the true nature of his world until now?
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
Get away. See some of the world. Explore.
I like to be an explorer, like the Great Magellan.
Oh, you're too late. There's really nothing left to explore. You want to be an explorer. This'll pass. We all think like this now and then.
They're pretending to.
Tell me what's happening!
You had to shut her down. Thank you for your help.
You're welcome, German.
Blocked it every turn.
They go around the block. They come back. They go around again. Really? You're part of this, aren't you?
You are scaring me!
You're scaring me, Meryl.
If his was more than just a vague ambition, he was absolutely determined to discover the truth. There's no way we could prevent him.
Christoph, I'd just like to say one thing. You're a liar and a manipulator, and what you've done to Truman is sick.
Well, we remember this voice, don't we? How could we forget? Sylvia, you think because you batted your eyes at Truman once, flirted with him, that you know him, that you know what's right for him?
Maybe I'm losing my mind.
I've been your best friend since we were 7 years old, Truman. I know that feeling when it's like everything's slipping away. And the point is, I would gladly step in front of traffic for you, Truman.
You really think you're in a position to judge him?
What right do you have to take a baby and turn his life into some kind of mockery? Don't you ever feel guilty?
Is that the best you can do? You're gonna have to kill me!
I have given Truman the chance to lead a normal life. The world, the place you live in, is the sick place. Behaving is the way the world should be.
He's not a performer, he's a prisoner. Look at him, look at what you've done to him.
I think what distresses you, really, is that ultimately Truman prefers his cell as your goal.
Well, that's where you're wrong. You're so wrong, and he'll prove you wrong.
No, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world.
The Earth. Is it really just a big ball floating in space? Spinning on its axis at 1,000 miles per hour? Hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour? Whizzing through the Milky Way at a milk-curdling speed of over 500,000 miles per hour? And warp driving through the heaven at over 500 million miles per hour? And what about the sun? Is it really 93 million miles away and close to 1 million miles in diameter, with a circumference of nearly 3 million miles? And it's constantly illuminating half of our entire Earth's surface with the rotation of the Earth, creating our 24-hour days, our night and days? Or, shh, the Earth is flat. And maybe it's completely still, just like we experience. And maybe the sun isn't big, but is very small and very close, and not illuminating the Earth from 93 million miles, but is illuminating locally. And maybe everything, the sun, moon, and stars, are not far away, but are circling overhead relatively close. In this video, we're going to explore the latter option, and at the end, we're going to reveal startling evidence through the use of time-lapse photography that the sun cannot possibly be 93 million miles away, but is in fact very close, and is illuminating locally as it traverses our flat Earth. Oh man, and watch how this sun comes at you. Boom! I mean, come on. And that's all perspective. If you look at jet trails, Google Images, you'll see them, they start out low at the horizon, they come up overhead, look at that thing. They come up overhead and then they go down to the horizon. Perfectly explains what the sun would do. Here it is going overhead. I love time-lapse. And look at this. You can't go out and look at the sun. You can't see this stuff, except that it's on, time-lapse like this. It's incredible. Now watch this thing. It's sweeping. The sun over flat Earth is doing a big circle, right? Look at this thing. See it sweeping to the right? It's like a lefty bowler. Just toss that down the alley, and there it goes, hooking into the pocket. How in the heck do you explain this on a flat Earth? Well, this footage is taken from Alaska during the summer, and the sun does look like it's going up and down. The reason it's doing that is that this town in Alaska is not in the center of the sun's circular circuit. In other words, the sun is making a big circle, and the town is not in the center of that circle. So the sun will be closer and further from the viewer with the camera. That will cause it to go higher and lower, and also maybe even bigger and smaller. Next 3 slides, I'm going to do a comparison, a side-by-side. The one on the left, the camera is above the clouds. The camera on the right is ground level. And the point for the side-by-side comparison from the ground level and the level above the clouds is that above the clouds we're only maybe a mile or so up, and if the sun appears to be closer to the camera, well, that means it's probably much closer, because if the sun were 93 million miles away, a mile closer wouldn't make any difference at all to its visual appearance. Okay, here's a little illustrator or a little cartoon from a website called timeanddate.com. It's really funny that they would have a perfect illustration of a sun rising and setting on a flat earth due to perspective. You'll notice that it rises from below the horizon and sets below the horizon. Now you might be saying, well, how's that possible? I can see now you're saying that it rises and lowers due to perspective, but how does it disappear below the horizon? Well, I got a theory about that. Because of the fact that all parallel lines and planes converge at your eye level horizon, this is according to the perspective, I'm not making this up. If in fact, and they do, they converge at your eye level horizon visually, then it makes sense that after that point they diverge, meaning they then separate, so the sun would continue on a downward track. As you can see from my illustration here, the lines would go to your horizon and then afterwards they would spread out and separate, kind of like a starburst, and the starburst being at your horizon, at your focal point. Okay, back to the Copernican principle, and this is what they tell us. The sun is 93 million miles away. Now, I'm going to show you evidence through sunsets that shows the sun light following the sun over the horizon, and it shrinks as it goes over. Now, there's no way it would do that if the sun is 93 million miles away. Okay, first I'm going to show you some footage from the ISS. Okay, now watch this animation. Watch this sunset. Now this is exactly, if they came to me and said, do an animation, this is how I would do it. If the sun were 93 million miles away. Just like that. Have the whole horizon fade evenly. But that's not what we see. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to start talking about, and I'm going to start showing you the time lapse of the sunsets that I'm talking about that clearly show the sun is close and illuminating. These next three slides, the sun is almost set already behind the horizon, but watch as the sunlight shrinks and follows the sun. It's definitely a locally illuminating sun, not far away, not very big, and definitely not 93 million miles away. Okay, remember this video from the beginning? Of the video, I showed you this one and how it's circling over the Earth, and watch it sweep to the right like a bowler bowling it in there for a strike. Okay, now I want you to pay attention to the way the light follows the sun. The sunlight's going to shrink, right, as it follows the locally illuminating sun. Watch this. See it shrinking, following the sun? You do not get that if the sun is 93 million miles away. The entire horizon should fade evenly, just like this supposed shot taken from space of the Earth. You can clearly see the way they depict it. They depict the demarcation between day and night, or light and dark, as a long straight line. And you can see the long straight line moving as one solid piece. That means that the sunset should all fade, the entire horizon should fade evenly. But that's not what we observe, as we will see and as we've seen in the footage so far. The sunlight shrinks and follows the sun over the horizon. So these time-lapse sunsets are definitely the nail in the coffin for heliocentrism. But this particular one here, shot from above the clouds from this observatory, is the final nail in the coffin. Look at how the sun just shrinks and the light shrinks to nothing. That cannot happen, as I showed you in the when the sun illuminates the entire Earth, which it does from 93 million miles away. It has to. You don't get this isolated look at the sunlight trailing the sun. That's only possible with a small sun, close, not very high, illuminating locally. I mean, if this isn't proof to you, then you gotta take the blinders off.